She says, "Hello, Heather. I'm relatively new to the community. I successfully lost 30 pounds in about 18 months ago, and I'm now figuring out how to successfully maintain. One issue I am having is that I love, love, love to go to several small local restaurants. These small places have amazingly delicious food, and I strongly prefer to keep in my life. However, there is no nutritional information available for the menus. Because of the lack of info, I end up not tracking the food. Then, since I only eat half of my plate at a time, I end up not tracking 2 meals during the week. And then often run into the mindset that since I've skipped tracking a meal, I'm off for the remainder of the day and stop tracking altogether. Do you have any suggestions for tracking menu items from small mom and pop restaurants? Thank you so much for all the help and information. You are in luck, my dear. I actually have a webinar, or not a webinar, I'm sorry, a video for you that I'm going to include with the resources for today. And that one is how to accurately track restaurant food. And I go into that in that particular video. Couple things I want to talk about. So, your issue, bel- believe it or not, is really not about tracking restaurant food. What your issue really is, and what I'm picking up from the question that you asked, is this all or nothing thought process. I didn't track the mom and pop restaurant, so thus I'm off for the day. And she, by the way, she did use air quotes. I mean, well, she used quotes. I'm using air quotes. Off for the day. That's the issue. It's not, did I accurately track the restaurant food? You can watch my video and see how to do that. But what really is the issue is the other, and this is one that plagues so many people. Um, I can tell you there's probably not a week that goes by that I don't have this conversation with at least one of my coaching clients where somebody didn't wanna track because they didn't know what was in the food, they didn't know what was in the recipe, they didn't know what the restaurant had, and so thus they just didn't do it. And I talk about there's these 2 when we think about tracking, kind of visualize my hands coming in at a 45-degree angle and they touch, okay? In a perfect world, our tracking would meet always. Our 2 hands would collide, okay? And what I want you to do is I want you to think about my right hand as my consistency with the practice of tracking. So the consistency with opening up my journal, the consistency with putting in the food, the consistency with getting everything in for the day. Consistency, consistency, consistency. The left hand is accuracy. It is, did I weigh all my food? Did I get the correct portion? Did I get everything in the recipe? It's the accuracy hand. What I have learned is that this left hand can fall off often. It can be wobbly. It can really never never go straight at all. If consistency happens, you'll be okay, okay? This is your strong hand. I don't know how many of you are right hand dominant, but your right hand is your dominant hand in this situation. Because if you're consistent and you're most of the time getting the accuracy, it's going to be far healthier and better for your overall goals than if the right hand always falls off. Accuracy can never happen if tracking consistently doesn't happen. So, tracking consistently is your most dominant part of this process. Okay. It's the most important. Accuracy can only happen when tracking happens. Okay. So, what I want you to think about here is my goal, and this is me speaking for you, my goal is that I'm going to consistently track. Since you love this food and since you've eaten there, I'd rather you come up with a shorthand version. And so, say we go to mom and pop restaurant number one, and let's just say you get some kind of chicken parmesan. I'm just throwing this out there. You eat half of it. I'd rather you do a quick ad in My Fitness Pal or create your own meal and says mom and pop restaurant, Joey's Italian Palace. Joey's Italian Palace, chicken parmesan, half plate, 300 calories. Boom, it's done. Every time you go to Joey's Italian Palace and you get the half parmesan, chicken parmesan, and you click it in your MyFitnessPal or whatever app you're using, then what immediately happens is it populates and it says it's 300 calories. Who cares if it's 300 calories? It doesn't matter. Remember my 2 hands. All right. What's important? Consistency. What's important? Tracking the meal. What's the least important? How accurate that meal is. What's happening is because the Joey's Palace chicken parmesan is not getting tracked, then subsequently, because we're off, we might not track the M&Ms. We might not track the half a cup of popcorn. We might not track the half a piece of chocolate cake we ate because we're off. We didn't track dinner. So now we're not tracking everything else. So we didn't track lunch. So we're not going to track everything else. So it creates this cascade of problematic behaviors. Okay. So what is the most important? The consistency with the tracking. Least important, accuracy of the tracking. This can't even happen if this doesn't occur, right? You can't be accurate if you're not doing this. So that's an impossibility. So we want these two to collide as close as we can. But if we had to pick one, guys, which one are we picking? Everyone. Bueller. The right hand. That's correct. All right. So the right hand is the most important. What would be better? First, watch the video on how to track restaurant food. Two, even if that doesn't work, you watch the video, none of it works, none of the suggestions work for you. Create a shorthand version of these meals to where you have something you can instantaneously track. Does it even matter if it's accurate? Not really. It only is going to matter if you start to notice you're gaining weight and you're realizing you're eating out more and more frequently at this restaurant. Then that becomes a more a more point of concern. But if you're still eating at that restaurant about the same level you were when you were losing weight or maybe just a hair more and your weight's been being fairly balanced, then you're okay. It's less important about the accuracy as it is about getting the tracking in.